Hello. This is another YouTube Pagan Challenge question, and this is question number 44. What has been most influential on your path? How do you even answer that question? It's like your whole life. The whole life has been influential on my path. What has been most influential? Mythology, I would say. Mythology has been a main driver. Since I was in 3rd grade. Love mythology still use it a lot in a variety of ways, both scholastically and spiritually. Mythology, Joseph Campbell was huge. I think my parents bought me his hero, A Thousand Faces, when I was like 19, and I was stoked. They also gave me like part 2 of Robert Graves' Greek Myths, and I was also stoked about that. Joseph Campbell, huge influence, especially early on with mythology and the use of mythology in both psychological and I would say even in the everyday of kind of how this stuff plays across your life and how you can bring it and see it in your life and in stories. I think is one of the things that really helped me understand the anatomy of a good story. It's like Star Wars is a really good example of the use of the hero's journey. So is Deep Space Nine, which I'm currently watching, which comes to mind with Cisco and him being the emissary and this journey over the years of him in charge of the space station until the end. Which, if you haven't watched it, I'm not going to reveal to you because then it'll spoil it. Not that it's new or anything, but you have his journey, and it's very much a hero's journey kind of deal that goes on with little offshoots into different heroes' journeys. So I think it helps you understand, with Joseph Campbell's work especially, how the mythic is still being played out in stories and storytelling in the modern era. Star Wars, not so much the prequels. That was how it just felt like we already were supposed to know it all and just believe it because we were told so. But within Luke's journey, even Leia and Han, and actually all of them, really, you see this hero's journey happen. And especially with Luke, because he's going through that whole mystical Jedi training stuff. So his is more impacted in that hero's journey. Whereas, much of Leia's heroine's journey doesn't really take place on screen. It started long ago. And the thing I like about her is, she just doesn't let herself be saved. She takes an active role in getting herself off the Death Star. She just doesn't sit there and be like, oh my God, you're not shooting fast enough. She grabs the gun and starts shooting. I like her. But back to influences. Mythology, definitely huge. I'd say early on to Janet and Stuart Farrar in the Witch's Bible. Yeah, this was pre-internet. We didn't have Raven Silver Spoon. Raven. I can never remember the Raven Wolf Silver Spoon lady. Silver Spoon, Silver Moon, Silver Wolf, Raven Silver Wolf. Okay, enough remembering her name. Teenage Witch Chick. We didn't have her when I was a teenager. We didn't. It was really hard to find high quality books on witchcraft. And I don't even know if I still have the Farrars Witch's Bible. I had theirs, and then How Spells Work, which is actually really quite a good read, but it never actually explained to me how spells worked. It was entertaining, though. It's a good read. And I think they're very accessible as far as their language and how they write. They're very easy to connect to. Who else? I'm trying to think here. It's mythology is interesting because it's still playing out. I'm still working with different pantheons, such as bringing in the Norse, which is more of a recent thing for me compared to Greco-Roman or Sumerian Middle Eastern, because I've done a lot of study with that kind of stuff, but not so much Northern Europe. So that has become an area that I have to free the cat. I'll be back. The cat has been freed. Now back to, what was it now? It was influential in your path. I'd say in some ways that the Friars were very influential early on. Never, Nary and Wicca never particularly appealed to me. It seemed very regimented and not my kind of thing. When I did work with a Grove, they were very much a believer in, when we all come together, we do it this way. When you go away and you go home, you do it your way. But once we're all together, this is how we do it, so we can all get on the same page very easily. So I say early on the Friars, in some way magical fiction, such as Tolkien, even Narnia to a certain extent. Narnia was just so blatantly Christian, not my favorite. Susan Cooper's The Dark is Rising series. Love that series. But once again, those are all things that use mythologies. So you come back to the influence of mythology on my spiritual path, no matter which way you look at it. But I feel like the Friars kind of gave a framework to the ritual aspect that was very difficult to find back in the late 80s and early 90s. There were only so many. You saw a lot of Blavatsky, a lot of Theosophy was still out, but that still wasn't really a framework of ritual. And I think that's what the Friars kind of brought for a lot of people early on, was kind of this idea of and concept of how to create ritual for yourself. Trying to think of other things, because I have been thinking on this, and now it kind of keeps coming back to mythology, books and mythology kind of, and I don't want to go too deep into books, because books is the next question. I think to one thing later on that's become more prominent is just as a solo practitioner, how it works for me, experimenting with really how it works for me, and really just calling out what doesn't, and kind of realizing quickly now that it's not working, move on. And using that theme of should I take, what do I need to leave behind when it comes to practices and things like that, rituals, etc. You kind of creating your own tradition as you live, and yeah, really it comes down to, I feel like, like mythology, Joseph Campbell, Janet and Stuart Farrar were very, very influential early on for me, in both giving me frameworks of how to understand my world and how to put it into a ritualistic aspect. Alrighty, that is it, and you have a wonderful day.